That was awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello, welcome to the show. Please subscribe, please click the button and visit that Pedal Show store. That's the primary way we fund this show and we're very grateful for your support there. A couple weeks back,
Yes.
might be 3 weeks back, we did a show called More Gain Pedals to Love or Some Gain Pedals to Love. We enjoyed it so much, you enjoyed it so much, we thought why not let's do some more because we've got loads.
We've got loads. And there's a
they're
load of
queuing up.
really interesting things as well. No clones here, you'll notice.
No Tube Screamer clones, no
amazing.
clones, nothing trying to sound like a blues breaker. Really, each individual takes on things that we seem to like. To wit, we have
To woo.
the JHS Pedals Hard Drive,
The Heatseeker from Crazy Tube Circuits.
the Ripped Speaker from Electro-Harmonix,
The Blackbird Deluxe from VS Audio.
and the Snow Dog from Lerxst FX.
Yes.
Now, I'm hoping that I've said that right. It is to do with Alex Lifeson, and it's a reference to him that I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So apologies.
I'm going to say with absolute confidence, yes, you've nailed it.
So apologies to Alex and all the Rush fans. Let's get into it then, Dan. Shall we go left to right as usual?
Yeah. So out today, we've got the Deluxe Reverb and the Paul Reed Smith HRDX 123420.
HD Hendrix HDRX Hendrix
Oh, okay.
20.
I'm sure I got the right things in there at some point.
Enough of the same things.
There you go.
Yeah, so the amps are running relatively clean.
Yeah.
Like
Here you go.
Yeah,
So-
okay. This is a high output guitar, but anyway. So they do break up just a little bit when you hit them with a spirited pickup.
Indeed.
And below that, that's where the dynamics happen. Okay, I've got this guitar, which is the PRS Miles Kennedy, because the first pedal today is a high gain pedal. The manual says, for the hard drive, that Josh has been working on this. Josh Scott has been working on this for years and years and years.
Since the womb.
Yeah, since just before the womb. Before the dawn of history,
Yes.
Josh had the idea he wanted a really decent high gain sound that wasn't really based on something that already existed.
So Space Odyssey 2001, as the
Yeah.
sun rises, if they turn the block around, it's this.
Sorry, we don't mean to be facetious. We're enjoying it today because it's loud. He wanted a high gain pedal that did convincing, really good high gain sounds, but it wasn't necessarily based on a DS1 or anything else. So he started from scratch. It's dead simple. Volume and drive as you would expect. So more drive, more volume. Bass and treble as you would expect.
Nice.
Backs and dual EQ.
Yep.
But the mid control is what it's really all about, because you have a parametric mid,
Yeah.
which means you can select the frequency of your mid boost or cut with the top knob there, and you can boost or cut with there. We'll listen to it in a sec. I don't think there's much in the way of clean sounds on offer here, but
Right.
let's get into it and see what we can discover.
Groove Henge.
Ready?
Yep.
That's with the minimum possible gain.
Okay.
So it's definitely not designed for you to, turn the gain down and the volume up and use the controls on your guitar to get a nice clean sound.
It's all about the distortion.
We're well into distortion really quickly.
Okay.
we didn't get past 11 o'clock on the gain control.
Really?
Loads and loads of gain. It's fizzing up a bit in these amps. I think maybe bright caps are involved.
Okay.
Definitely a bit of fizzy on the top there. Let's just try it with this bridge humbucker a minute just to see. The mid is what you heard is I cut it all the way and swept the entire frequency range, and then boosted it all the way and swept the entire frequency range. So you can really sit it in there. Like, for example, if you were going for a classic 80s metal sound,
Sweep the legs, sweep the mids.
you know, Kirk type Metallica.
Yeah.
If you look at how he had his graphic EQ set on his Mesa Mark II amps, I think you'll see a sort of distinct V shape. I think the center frequency on the Mesa 5-band is 750, if I'm remembering correctly, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. That would enable you somewhere around here, I think, is about 750, somewhere around there.
Right.
So you can
Get that
sweep it
scoopy.
out. As the, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's relevant. As the 80s turned into the 90s and new metal came along, what you started hearing was a real boost in sort of 1 to 2K
Yeah. And it's,
upper mids.
it's a tone that we hadn't heard for so long. It was like, oh, you can
Yeah.
actually hear the guitars.
Largely thanks to the Mesa dual rectifier, but also PV50 150 and amps of its ilk. And I think that's kind of where we are here.
Okay.
So we can go from scoopy to quite pronounced mid-range. Not that Dan and I are really, you know, strong proponents of this.
Yeah, man. Loves a humbucker,
Scoopy.
but it has all the fizz in the right place as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had a fair bit of fizz dialed on there, and I think, as we said earlier, perhaps the nature of these amps is making that fizzy.
Yeah, but it's pushing it hard enough, so it all seems to be working in here. It sounds really good.
It does sound good. The bass control seems to be in a sort of 412 thumpy area.
Okay. It's subby.
Yeah, so depending on if you're using a big cab, you'd want to dump some of that off.
Okay.
But in a smaller amp, you can give it a bit more mumbo to get the bass end response. Clearly, it's not a genre Dan and I are very proficient in playing in.
The 90s heavy distortion.
Or 80s metal, for that matter.
Sure.
Neither of us really understand it, but I think it's a really good showing of that kind of sound.
I concur.
Yeah.
It's often with pedals that have this much flexibility, suitable, parametric, they can be a little bit compromised.
Yeah.
I think that's sonically it's all together.
Yeah,
very
and
nice.
It's very easy to understand as well. There's not lots of switches and all that. And that just tuning that mid in to particularly useful if you have two guitars in your band, for example.
Yeah, right.
And you want to avoid one another. A great way to do it is for one of you, certainly for rhythm anyway, for one of you to boost the mids a bit, one to cut the mids a bit. And that can just sit really nicely together.
We'll just delete their number on your phone. Make sure when they turn up, they're on far off the side of the stage. Tell the sound guy you don't like them. Pull them out of the mix.
Adversarial dual guitar bands. Okay. Cool, nice one, JHS. I didn't realise, being called hard drive, I didn't realise, it sounds pretty obvious, that's obviously what it is. But because I saw the computer
Right.
in the graphic, I assumed it was going to be some sort of like
Bit crusher or
bit
something.
thing. Yeah,
okay.
like a, anyway, blah, blah, blah. Moving right along. Heatseeker,
Cool.
Crazy Tube Circuits. Crazy Tube Circuits out of Athens, Greece. I think it's fair to say we like pretty much everything they do.
Haven't played a pedal of theirs yet that I haven't gone, awesome.
And this dual format, where there's two things in one pedal, one sort of emulating an amp, has been seen in the Unobtainium. There's been a whole bunch of dual pedal things that are obviously based off the same format.
Sure.
This one, we're going to try and go through the whole rest of the video without mentioning a famous Australian rock band.
Okay.
The most famous Australian rock band.
It's not that hard.
Not that hard, Mac. Anyway. Angus.
This is going to be tough.
Was famous. So throughout the ages, AC/DC, of course it's AC/DC, even though they don't mention it in the manual because
they're quite litigious.
Among the most litigious organisations out there. So we'll also try and not.
That's going to be fun. Trying not to play.
Not to play any AC/DC riffs. The tone of AC/DC and particularly of Angus, I don't know about Malcolm, but particularly of Angus is some sort of cranked Marshall.
Right.
And the Schaefer wireless
preamp.
unit. So these two knobs here emulate the Schaefer wireless unit because it was buffered, had a preamp in it, presumably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like all wireless things, you have to buffer the signal. What they found was they were using this wireless system and it sounded great. And they're in the studio and plugging directly into the amp. It was like, it's really good, but we need something. And that they put the wireless in and just used the preamp section of it. And it's like, there it is. So that preamp is born.
So that's this side and this switch. And then this side emulates a bunch of different Marshalls. So there's a switch on the top there that goes 45, which one would assume is a JTM 45. In the middle, it says SL, which one would assume is a super lead. And in the bottom, it's a master volume type 70s Marshall. The other switch is something called Wall of Sound, which, having played with it for 2 minutes before we started filming, I think means lots of 4x12 cabs.
Right.
So
it just sounds better with it on.
Extra bottom end, yeah. 3-band EQ, presence, volume, and output. So we're looking at a Marshall amp simulator on the left-hand side. No cabinets. There's no cabinets in there. And the wireless on the right. Dan has the appropriate Git board. That was Frank Zappa's version of Highway to Hell.
Highway to Hull.
So I'm going to hope this is transferring in the recorded audio. There's a lot of presence and a lot of treble. We've got them both dialed back quite a bit at the moment. There's also quite a lot of gain. If you listen to early DC, they're actually not that gainy, the sounds.
No, they're just massive and fat.
Yeah, the coupling of the two guitars together makes it sound huge.
Yeah.
So we'll stay there for a sec. I'm just going to explore the EQ and the presence just to see what we've got on there. Just spin a classic AC/DC record, an earlier one, preferably Highway to Hell, and have a listen to the Agus's lead guitar sound. There is a very specific woody frequency in the mid-range that's really honky and really sounds like wood to me. It sounds like a cab. Like it's like a Marshall. It has to be a Marshall.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if that's available in the middle control. Again, keeping the gain lower because it feels like the gain should be lower and pushing the output. What was interesting, when you, on the bottom string, there was an incredible thump. So I think that wall of sound control is happening 50 to 80 hertz, maybe even something like that, like a real thump that you get from a 412.
Right. So it's emulating the coupling of amplifiers together, that thing.
Yeah, like with the bass, when you get two 412s, and it really thumps. So useful if you're using a smaller amp, maybe too much if you are actually using a 412. We can only speculate. Okay, let's invoke the... This is on the 45 setting, by the way. We'll go up in gain in a minute.
Right.
Let's invoke the wireless and see what happens.
Okay.
I'm liking it in the JCM 45 mode.
Yeah, that is really fabulous.
I mean, you could say that there's too much gain there, but are we going to moan about that?
No, you can turn the gain down. It's nice to have it there.
Yeah. So I'm looking for looking for my plectrum. If regular viewers are wondering what I've done to my hand, I've broken this bone there. Well, fractured it. So it's a little bit painful.
Yeah.
Which means putting my hand in my pocket like that is quite fun. Hang on, let's have a go with this then. I know it's not the right guitar, but you may have one of these. Oh, great. Hopefully this one is somewhere closer to the actual register of Highway to Hell.
Which is a little bit flat.
It feels, I don't know, maybe it's either my turntable plays slow or the particular master I've got plays slow, but I think they're somewhere between E and E flat, aren't they? I'm going to venture up here a bit and see what happens. Stop.
But you know what's cool about that? Even with all that gain, you can still hear the distinct difference between the guitars.
Yeah, with apologies for the flaming all that. What happens, for those of you who know this won't be new news. For those of you who maybe spend more of your life on Fenders, on a Les Paul or an SG, when you get up here, there is a weight and a mid-range to those notes that doesn't exist on a Tele or a Strat.
No.
And it's almost like they get cleaner, for want of a better...
Oh, yeah, okay.
For want of a better description. And the weight and the thump and all of that that's there, obviously, is, to me anyway, has always been a huge part of Angus's sound.
Right.
Because it wasn't massively gainy, the guitar carries the weight.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know if that was coming through there, a little bit maybe. Mid-range feels like it's still not ultimately in the same woody place.
Okay.
But that could change radically depending on what amp you're using.
Yeah, sure.
I dig it.
Yeah. No, I dig it. It has, as soon as I play that, it's like, especially with this guitar, it just puts me right in that place.
It's kind of balls out.
Oh yeah.
With all the presence. I mean, we've got, as you can see, we've got the presence and the treble dialed back a bit there.
But so it has high headroom inside. It's using high voltages. I think they say 27 volts.
Yeah, I don't know if that's for the preamp section or all of it, but
what that means is any clipping is very intentional. You're not just slamming into, rails that are because of the low amount of headroom inside the pedal.
Yeah,
it's very detailed. I dig it.
If you have ever had the pleasure to stand in front of a cranked JTM 45 on a 412 or a Super Lead or a Master Volume, any of those amps, you'll know that it's a very, very, very visceral experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Bordering on unpleasant unless you're really on top of your playing.
It is a beast that is hard to tame.
Yeah. And then, of course, that's where the clarity, the harmonic interest and his sound comes from.
Yeah.
But I think you don't have to stray too far in rock to hear that influence elsewhere. It's a sound, maybe even if you come as far as the darkness, you can still hear that Woody, Gibson and Marshall thing happening.
Once it
I
came
think
back.
It covers much of that as well.
Definitely. Once that sound came back, it didn't really go. You'd find it everywhere because people really latched onto it.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
It's cool. A nice extension of that dual function format from Crazy Tube.
Nice.
Circuits. Okay, Ripped Speaker.
Okay.
Have a guess what this is emulating, Dan.
Well.
In the manual, it says that a certain Ike Turner was one of the people who discovered this.
Right.
When he's about to do a gig and an amp gets dropped and a speaker gets perforated. And
a roadie suddenly goes missing.
Careful. And Ike does the gig, really likes it, and then continues to record with that sound.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it emulates the torn speaker in an amp. And we've heard other tales of speakers being torn in order to get distortion in the days before guitar amps had distortion, or studios were such that you'd have to turn them up too loud so the men in white coats wouldn't let you anyway. Or the best you could get was a bit of distortion off the front end of the mic pre, which of course, back in the day, the engineers were really against. That was everything that they didn't
want.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were, as a guitar player in the 50s, you were struggling to go with overdrive if you really wanted it, because the studios didn't want it.
You need to remember what it must have sounded like when you first heard guitar distortion on the radio. It must have been so alien and confronting.
Made you feel things in ways you've never felt before.
Indeed. Changed the world.
Made you want to go out and imbibe alcohol. And
Link Ray was certainly one of the earlier guys that you heard on the radio with a distorted sound. And
He is sometimes credited as the first.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. Link Ray, check him out. 50s.
Yeah, and man, I just with if you look at when that was released and have a look at the top 10, and then think of what it must have sounded like when that came on the radio. I like that for a number of reasons. Not only having the guts and the foresight to record it like that, but then the record company to say, this is cool and we're going to put this out, and everyone went mad for it.
Well, to continue that tangent, sorry about the tangents, but sometimes they happen. It was an era when everyone was looking for the new sound.
Yeah, that's right.
The new sound was paramount.
Yeah.
Paramount.
Yeah.
Like today, it's how can we replicate an old sound and trigger it in somebody's ear so they get familiarity. That's what modern music's all about, or not all about, predominantly about. In that day, it was what is new? How can we make this thing sound new?
Yeah.
So anyway, Ripped Speaker. It ain't subtle.
No, it's not. It's not quiet.
It's got 4 controls. Volume and tone should be self-explanatory enough, and we'll go through those in a second. All the fun happens on these 2 controls. The RIP, R.I.P., RIP, the Ripped Speaker, R.I.P. speaker. It's gone, dead, maybe, RIP. The amount of RIP, which is a bias control.
Okay.
And all the way to either side of noon gives you like gated sounds.
So it's okay. So it's moving into the top and bottom of the waveform.
Yeah. So under or over biasing it, I guess, is it? Is that not?
If you're, you've got your rails basically, and it's sort of moving it up to the top half or down to the bottom half.
Let's see what we get. And fuzz, self-explanatory enough. Less fuzzy to the left, more fuzzy to the right. As we said, it ain't subtle.
That's really cool.
It's super gaty, isn't it? You could almost do your...
So even at its most open, it's still like really ratty.
So we think it's most open here.
About there.
Just seeing if any rhythm guitar at all is possible. That's killer.
Yeah, it's really great.
There's a lot of kind of crazy fuzzes out there that you can spend boutique money on to get that gated noise.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's nice.
Pretty cool. Was it ever not gated?
That is the most ungated sound.
Yeah, so I wonder if we did that and that, whether that would make any difference. I just wanted to know if you lose any of the front of the note
Oh, okay.
on that, but there's no gate there.
No, right.
Yeah.
It's quite open there. It's
Awesome.
a really cool sounding thing.
Awesome. I guess you could probably even sorry, one final thing. I don't know if this will work or not, and I'll try not to play the correct riff. I was just wondering if you could get anywhere near that FZ1A
Yeah, right.
tone that Keith used on Satisfaction. If you played the right riff. Sorry, deliberately not the right riff because we get done for copyright. So,
I dig that.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Right, Blackbird Deluxe VS Audio. First time I came across VS Audio pedals was via Christopher of Buckshire.
Oh,
Didn't he have a couple of VS pedals on his board back in the day?
he may as well. He's had all of them at some point.
This called the Blackbird Deluxe, which, as far as we're aware, emulates on one side, on the right-hand side as you look down, classic black panel, black and brown panel Fender amplifiers.
Right.
So we're talking, there was a transitional period in Fender amps where they were tweed,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually they end up looking like that with the black control panel, mid-60s. Tweeds ended pretty much at the end of the 50s, even though tweeds do exist into 60, 61. Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Do you know why they went that way? But from tweed to the the invention of plastic.
Oh, right.
So before tweed, and they invent plastic and vinyl. It's like, well, we can make this really cheap and cover it in black vinyl.
And we
There
don't
you
have
go.
to cover it in
Don't have to
suitcase
cover
covering
it
anymore.
and varnish it and actually do it with care and love.
And
No,
then-
just slap this on it. Hurrah!
If you take a Tweed Deluxe, for example, which precedes this pedal, and that, the difference in tone is amazing. But there was a period there between, I guess, 60 and 63, 64, where there was this evolution of Fender amps. And
Yeah.
we go through the cream Tolex, the brown Tolex, and some of the brown Tolex amps, which you'll see, they also have a brown control panel, are a stepping stone
Yeah.
between Tweeds and what we now know as the classic mid-60s black panel amps.
And they're also the start of the harmonic tremolo, aren't they?
Yeah, this unfortunately doesn't have harmonic tremolo.
Oh, okay. Oh,
'Cause
that's interesting.
The other side of it is a bias tremolo, bias being varies the bias on the output tubes to give you the classic tremolo that you would get in amps of the period. What Dan's referring to is in things like the Super and the Concert brown panel amps, you've got this amazing harmonic tremolo sound. As far as we're aware, this doesn't do that, but that's okay.
If you go and check out the first video we ever did with Joey Landreth, he brings in a couple of those incredible amplifiers and we hear it, and that was the start of our harmonic tremolo journey.
So working backwards then, the classic mid-60s black panel amp, kind of mid-scooped, fairly clean sounding, gets into overdrive the more you turn it up. But the earlier amps, the ones that are closest to the Tweed era in terms of the brown panel amps, more mid-forward, stuff like as the change from less to more negative feedback.
Yeah, okay.
So they feel a bit more gainy.
Yep.
They've got a bit more gain front end, and that's what you hear in the brown panel amps. So anyway, one of these positions is black panel, one is brown panel.
Okay.
This is a bright or a lower channel. That's the vibrato,
Right, okay.
which is actually tremolo.
Oh, they named it vibrato because that's what it was named on the amps, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
We won't go into the tangent, but one of the great misnomers of the 20th century as far as guitars are concerned, if it says vibrato on a Fender amp, it is usually tremolo.
Yes.
Let's move right along.
That's amazing.
It's really cool.
Really, really cool. I think the fact that the tremolo adds a bit of gain, which is what happens in the amp when you kick it on. So they've gone to that trouble also to have the effects loop in there.
Yeah.
So you can stick like reverb or whatever in the loop before it.
Because what you heard when I turned the echo fix on there, that's something that doesn't happen in many Fender amps. I don't know about any, but certainly not many. Usually the tremolo is the last thing, because certainly in a bias circuit, if it is affecting the bias of the output tubes up and down, obviously the reverb comes before that. So in that amp, for example, Deluxe Reverb, it's reverb and then tremolo, I believe, or certainly in a proper bias tremolo situation.
Yeah.
I don't know, that might be an op amp. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So you would normally be used to hearing the reverb before. The Blackbird enables you to do that.
Yeah.
Because it, as Dan says, it has the effects loop built in.
Because if you think about
dig that.
the bias tremolo, what's happening is it's the power valves, the output valves, the way they do the tremolo is the output valves reduce power and increase power. So it's actually the output of the amplifier that's giving you the tremolo. So the reverb circuit, the reverb sound going into that.
Yeah.
So of course it's increasing and decreasing everything in the amp.
And it's very different.
Very different.
Which is why in stuff like the Strymon, that one that does reverb and tremolo.
Yes, Flint. Well done.
That's why you can change the order.
Yeah, I think that's extraordinary. I didn't know if we were going to get into some sort of, time loop variant where we destroy the universe by having a black panel amplifier going into a black panel amplifier. But we were safe. It's okay.
It was okay. And obviously you could stick your overdrive pedal of choice in front of that to give you more of that flavour.
Oh, go on.
We don't have one.
Okay.
Maybe another day. Yeah, really cool. Really, really cool, in fact.
Yeah. Love it.
Particularly if you've got a compact board, whether it would work into speaker simulator and all of that if you were using that sort of arrangement.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Maybe. Dark side, we don't go there.
Yeah. Just hearing it into a couple of amps, though, it sounds amazing.
It does. Sounds killer. Right. Lerxst, then.
Lerxst.
It was last NAMM, I believe, that this began. Alex Lifeson of Rush fame has partnered with a company to make some pedals under the Lerxst brand.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, there were two. One is called The Stage is Set for the Greatest Battle in History of Pedals, named after dogs. Bytor versus the Snow Dog.
Okay.
Bytor shows up from his lair located a few blocks from hell.
With his nasty growl and beady eyes to meet the Snow Dog, itching for a rematch. He arrives howling with an unworldly racket, dripping with a terrifying screech that mere mortals would have trouble figuring out what the heck it was. Now that is the start of the concept album. It's close combat for these two canine combatants. Also, try saying that after a few tunes, mate. Separated only by a thin, short cable. They eye each other fiercely, foaming at the mouth, well if they actually have mouths. Circling each other, the muscles tout, they are set, not afraid to get.
So, Alex wrote that, Alex Lifeson wrote that. That would suggest that you're supposed to use them together.
The two pedals.
Yeah,
okay.
The Bytor and the Snow Dog. In any case, we have just the Snow Dog, which is an Octave Fuzz.
Awesome.
Fuzz, Octave, order switch.
Yes.
Shall we start with the Fuzz?
Let's do that. Yeah, man.
The fuzz side sounds kind of muffy.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. And it's even called sustain on it, which is a sort of a very muffy term. But yeah, it sounds like a really nice muffy type fuzz.
By muffy, we're referring, of course, to the Electro-Harmonix Big Muff. 3 transistor fuzz sounds very different from something like a fuzz face or a tone bender, for example. Certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because when you turn the sustain down, the gain control, there's not much in the way of clean or niceness.
Right. Yeah.
So I've got this guitar. I'm on a sort of guitar voyage today. Got this guitar covered in dust because it's got a thingy on it.
An old wangaroo.
Yeah, why not? I mean, in for a penny. But humbuckers. I do like PRS guitars, but they're this way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like Strats and my bigger guitars are that way.
Yeah.
This
My
one's this
SG's
way.
over here.
So, yeah, exactly. So everything's a fret out for me, but.
That is wicked.
It is wicked. I'll tell you what we didn't try. Oh, you did?
We did.
Yes. The order switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
One's
the
quite-
more extreme setting.
Yeah. And one sounds a bit thinner and focused. The other one is fatter.
Yeah, killer. I mean, those of you who know Alex Lyson's work and Rush's work may know the real key points where the Octave fuzz is used and where it really comes in. Sounds kind of interesting to pair the octave with, because normally in an Octave fuzz, normally in an Octave fuzz you get a fuzz face style
Yeah.
and an octave.
That's right.
In the sort of Hendrix tradition. So this is a different
Yeah.
take on it.
The big muffin and octafuzz.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It reacted quite nice off the volume pot as well. One of the things about octave pedals is they respond very differently where you play on the neck. So the classic Jimmy thing is neck pickup and turn the volume down a little bit, and all these harmonics start to jump out around the sort of, 9th to 12th fret sort of area. And that's the real key thing. And as you turn the guitar down, different harmonics
Yeah, right.
sort of start to leap out, so you can get that really crying, very emotional Daniel if you're playing what does Greg Coxey, windswept and emotional folk music.
In a room of the great unwashed.
Yeah, for more, because obviously Octave full out screaming crazy, but actually back on the volume control, you can get
Yeah, right.
bawling sounds.
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah, another really
They're all very interesting.
unique.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. I love that they're unique and they've got their own thing. They're all sort of, you wouldn't mistake any of them for anything else.
Not a Tube
Great.
Screamer clone among them.
No,
Happy
love that.
days. Yeah, the gain pedal market's still very much alive and kicking.
Indeed. Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
You got to take one.
Oh, that's really tough.
Isn't it tough?
It's either the Heatseeker or the Blackbird, and I'm going to say the Blackbird is the thing I would use the most.
Right.
But yeah, the Blackbird is the thing I would use the most.
Sure. Well, then I'll take the Heatseeker.
Right.
I love the what's the name of that circuit? The boost
Yeah.
circuity thing.
The boost on its own sounds great. And
Really great.
Yeah, we did show it earlier, but you can use it independently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point because I've got other things that essentially get towards.
Yes.
I wanted to say the Ripped Speaker.
I know what you mean, and it's such a cool sound. It's not a sound that I'm
Yeah.
going, oh, that's what's been missing in my life, but it's such a cool sound because
you.
I don't use that gated thing.
All your Jack White covers.
Exactly. I think they all sound great. I think the hard drive sounds amazing, but it's not something that I go to.
We just don't understand that word,
No,
do we? Let's
no.
be honest. We needed Paul Gilbert in here really to
We did.
explain that to
But
us.
the Heatseeker,
Yeah.
love it.
Groovy. Please
Fantastic.
subscribe. Please subscribe. It does help in terms of the show's visibility. So please subscribe. Please also go to that Pedal Show store and buy some merch, such as these lovely T-shirts that we're wearing.
Loose deal.
It's the primary way we fund the show.
Very good. Read the description as well. Massive thanks to our preferred retailers and loads of information in there as well. So jump on that. Have a great week and we'll see you soon.
Patrons on Patreon.
Patrons on Patreon.
We must mention you and say thank you.
Indeed. Absolutely.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Dan, this is one of those Easter eggs that you get after the end of a video
Okay.
because we didn't put them all on.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
Looks like you're playing.